When people talk about intelligence in The Sopranos, they usually make the mistake of treating it like a school subject. They look for the character who sounds the smartest, the one who speaks well, the one who can reference history, therapy, psychology, or business. But that is not really how intelligence works in this show. In The Sopranos, intelligence is not just knowledge. It is not vocabulary. It is not education. It is not even raw cunning by itself. Real intelligence in this world is the ability to understand what game you're in, what kind of people are around you, what your own weaknesses are, and what price comes with every move you make. Some characters are clever but not intelligent because they cannot control themselves. Some are emotionally sharp but strategically blind. Some are great earners but terrible readers of danger. Some understand everybody except themselves. That is what makes ranking intelligence in this show so interesting, because the smartest character is not simply the one with the highest IQ. It is the one who can survive the longest, influence the most people, avoid unnecessary damage, and read reality better than everyone else. So if we are ranking Sopranos characters by intelligence, we have to use a wider definition. Street intelligence matters. Emotional intelligence matters. Strategic patience matters. Self-awareness matters most of all because the show keeps proving that a man can understand business, violence, and manipulation and still be ruined by the one blind spot inside himself. That is why some characters who look weak are smarter than they seem, and some characters who look powerful are a lot dumber than people think. Starting from the bottom, the first name that has to come up is Jackie Jr. Jackie is what happens when somebody inherits confidence without earning ability. He is not just naive, he is deeply confused about what intelligence even looks like. He thinks acting like a gangster means he understands gangsters. He thinks repeating old legends means he belongs in the same story as the men who made those legends. But he never understands context, never understands timing, and never understands that the mob world is not impressed by somebody trying to cosplay his father's reputation. Jackie keeps mistaking image for substance. That alone makes him one of the least intelligent major characters in the whole series. He has chances other people would kill for. He has protection, name value, access, and people around him trying in different ways to pull him away from disaster. And he still drifts right toward it because he is too shallow to understand the danger he is standing in. His stupidity is not loud in the usual way. It is worse than that. It is a calm belief that he already gets everything. Just above him are Matt Bevilacqua and Sean Gismonti, who might be the purest example of low-level stupidity trying to dress itself up as ambition. These two are not totally brain-dead in a basic sense. They understand that there is a ladder in front of them. They understand that power exists above them and that they want more of it. But they have absolutely no feel for how that ladder works. They think movement is the same thing as progress. They think if they do something dramatic enough, important enough, violent enough, then the world above them will be forced to notice them and reward them. That is not intelligence. That is impatience mixed with fantasy. In The Sopranos, almost every truly smart criminal understands one basic truth. If you are low level, your first job is to stay alive, stay useful, stay predictable to the right people, and let time build your position. Matt and Sean try to skip all of that. They move with the logic of children who think one big act can rewrite their whole status overnight. They are too stupid to know how stupid they look. Brendan Filone belongs down here too for a similar reason but a different flavor. Brendan has more natural energy than Jackie, Matt, or Sean, but almost no discipline. He is reckless in a way that makes older guys read him instantly. He is the kind of person who thinks nerve is intelligence. He sees fearlessness in himself where others see a total absence of judgment. In this world, being bold can help you, but only when it is attached to timing, respect for structure, and some understanding of who has the real authority. Brendan has none of that. He is impulsive, unserious, and far too eager to test limits. What makes him unintelligent is not just that he breaks rules. It is that he breaks rules without having the power, protection, or deeper plan to survive the consequences. He does not even understand that certain people are giving him chances he has not earned. He thinks he is pushing forward when he is really just moving closer to being removed from the board. Christopher sits much higher than those guys because he clearly has real intelligence, but he also has one of the most frustrating intelligence profiles in the entire show. Chris is talented. He has instincts. He understands danger. He can read disrespect quickly. He knows how people talk, how they lie, how they try to play angles. He can be sharp, funny, observant, and very capable when he is focused. The problem is that intelligence means very little if you cannot rule yourself. Christopher's mind is constantly at war with Christopher's impulses. He wants status faster than he can properly carry it. He wants love, approval, artistic meaning, criminal success, and emotional escape all at once. He can never settle into one identity. That inner chaos limits his intelligence more than any lack of brains ever could. There are moments where he shows the ability to become something much more stable and dangerous than he ends up being. But intelligence in The Sopranos is always connected to consistency. Chris has flashes of brilliance and long stretches of self-destruction. He is smart enough to see patterns, but not wise enough to stop repeating them. Paulie is one of the hardest characters to rank because he is both smarter and dumber than people think. On one hand, Paulie is narrow-minded, paranoid, deeply superstitious, and often trapped by his own ego. He can misread tone, escalate small issues, and make himself vulnerable to manipulation because he is always worried about respect. But on the other hand, Paulie has a very real survival intelligence that a lot of more glamorous characters do not have. He understands the old rules. He understands danger quickly. He knows how to recover from embarrassment better than most people in the show. He knows when to flatter, when to complain, when to act wounded, and when to fall back into line. Paulie is not a broad thinker. He is not a visionary. He is not emotionally deep. But he is incredibly tuned to the small signals of mob life. He knows where the wind is blowing, and even when he makes mistakes, he usually finds a way back because his instincts for self-preservation are extremely strong. He is not intelligent in the elegant sense. He is intelligent in the cockroach sense. He survives because he feels danger in his bones. Bobby ranks above Paulie in a quieter way. Bobby is often treated like a simple man, and compared to louder personalities, he can seem slow. But Bobby is not stupid at all. In fact, part of his intelligence comes from the fact that he does not burn energy trying to look smarter than he is. He understands people better than many of the men around him. He knows when to stay quiet. He knows when a room is tense. He knows how to build trust by not always turning every conversation into a contest of pride. Bobby lacks ruthlessness early on, and that limits his position in the mob hierarchy, but that does not make him unintelligent. If anything, it shows that in this world, decency can make smart people look weak. Bobby's problem is not that he cannot understand the game. It is that he does not naturally enjoy the ugliest parts of it. Once he gets closer to power, you start seeing that he actually learns well. He adapts. He becomes more useful. He carries himself with more confidence without becoming loud or sloppy. He is not one of the smartest men in the show, but he is far from one of the dumbest. Richie is smarter than Bobby, but less intelligent in the full sense. Richie has old-school instincts, real menace, and a strong understanding of how fear works. He knows how to pressure people. He knows how to test boundaries. He knows how to make himself feel bigger than the room. He also understands that appearances matter and that if people start seeing weakness in you, your whole position becomes unstable. In a more limited environment, Richie could seem like a genius because he has such a strong feel for intimidation. But what lowers him is rigidity. Richie confuses the world he remembers with the world that exists. He has intelligence, but it is trapped inside a worldview that has gone stale. He cannot adapt to the fact that power has changed shape. He cannot accept that relationships, optics, and modern compromise now matter just as much as raw force. That inability to update his understanding makes him dangerous, but not truly smart. He knows how to dominate a room, but not how to manage a changing system. Junior is where the list gets more serious, because now we are talking about people with real mental power. Junior is old, proud, easily wounded, and often manipulated. But you do not survive that long in that life without major intelligence. Junior understands hierarchy deeply. He understands tradition, pressure points, perception, and the value of letting somebody else expose themselves first. He is good at hearing the hidden meaning under what people say. He knows how pride works in other men because his own pride is so enormous. But that is also his weakness. Junior's vanity damages his intelligence again and again. He can be guided, cornered, or inflamed because he wants dignity so badly. He wants recognition. He wants to be seen as sharp, relevant, and properly respected. That emotional hunger makes him vulnerable. So Junior is a very intelligent man whose ego keeps corrupting his judgment. He sees a lot, but he cannot always see the one thing that matters most in the moment. How much his own hurt feelings are steering him. Carmela belongs above Junior because her intelligence is underrated for most of the series. Carmela does not command soldiers, she does not run scams, and she is not feared in the traditional mob sense, so people can miss how sharp she really is. But Carmela has social intelligence, emotional reading ability, and financial awareness that many of the men around her lack. She understands Tony more than most people ever do. Not completely, but enough to know when he is lying, when he is hiding, when he is cornered, and when he is using gifts or affection to cover guilt. She also understands the economy of her world better than people give her credit for. She knows security matters. She knows assets matter. She knows promises are worthless if they are not backed by something tangible. Carmela's weakness is self-deception. She often knows the truth and still participates in the lie because the lie protects her lifestyle, her family image, and her own moral comfort. That stops her from climbing even higher, but it should not hide how intelligent she is. She survives in a house built around a very difficult man, and she does it not by force, but by reading, timing, and pressure. Johnny Sack ranks above Carmela because his intelligence operates on both the emotional and strategic level. Johnny is one of the best communicators in the entire show. He knows how to speak in a way that feels controlled, serious, and believable. He knows how to make people feel the weight of his words. He is good at reading tensions between people and using them without always exposing himself. He understands image, loyalty, alliances, and timing better than most. He also has genuine patience, at least compared to the average mob guy. But Johnny's flaw is huge. Emotion breaks his strategy. The moment something hits his pride or his family, especially his wife, his intelligence starts serving his anger. That is always a dangerous turn in The Sopranos. The smartest characters know how to use emotion without becoming ruled by it. Johnny often fails there. He is brilliant at many levels, but he can be pulled off course by personal humiliation, and once that happens, his judgment starts shrinking. Ralphie is even smarter than Johnny, and that is exactly what makes him so terrifying. Ralphie is one of the best readers of human weakness in the whole show. He knows what makes people insecure. He knows what they want to hear. He knows how to provoke, amuse, flatter, and unnerve. On top of that, he is an earner. That matters. In this world, making money is one of the clearest proofs of usable intelligence, because it means you understand appetite, leverage, and opportunity. Ralphie sees angles everywhere. He is quick, creative, and far more perceptive than his clownish behavior makes him appear. But Ralphie is another example of a man whose intelligence is poisoned by his own nature. He cannot stop testing people. He cannot stop turning everything into a performance. He cannot resist cruelty even when restraint would serve him better. He is smart enough to know better, but not stable enough to act better. That keeps him from becoming one of the true giants of the show. Silvio is one of the most complete intelligences in the series. He is not the flashiest thinker, but he may be the most balanced. Silvio understands power, presentation, protocol, personality, and long-term consequences. He knows when the boss is emotional. He knows when a decision is too hasty. He knows how to phrase advice in a way that does not humiliate the man hearing it. That alone takes serious intelligence. Silvio has political sense. He sees how small problems become big ones if they are handled badly. He also understands that leadership is not just domination. It is management of mood, perception, and rhythm. When Tony is unstable, Silvio often acts like a quiet stabilizer around him. What holds Silvio slightly below the top few is that he works best as a number two. His intelligence is enormous, but it is structured around supporting, advising, and executing, not necessarily around carrying the full burden of supreme power. Still, in terms of all-around intelligence, he is near the top. Hesh belongs even higher because he has something many characters never fully develop: detachment. Hesh understands people, money, history, and risk. He does not need the spotlight, and that already makes him smarter than most mob-adjacent characters. He knows how greed distorts judgment. He knows how ego makes men predictable. He knows when to speak and when to let others talk themselves into revealing what they are. Hesh survives because he rarely confuses closeness with safety. Even when he is friendly with powerful people, part of him stays realistic. That realism is intelligence. He sees the larger picture better than most men in the series, especially the way money and emotion interact. He understands that people will say family, honor, and loyalty, but when pressure arrives, debts and power tell the real story. Hesh is not a conqueror, but he is one of the most clear-eyed people in the whole show. Livia is one of the darkest intelligences in The Sopranos because her intelligence is mostly emotional and psychological rather than practical. She does not build things, she poisons them. But she understands people at a frightening level. Livia sees weakness instantly. She knows how guilt works, how shame works, how obligation works. She knows how to make people feel small without appearing to attack them directly. She knows how to turn confusion into control. That is a brutal kind of intelligence, but it is intelligence nonetheless. The reason she ranks so high is because so many people around her, even smart people, fall into her gravity. She can destabilize rooms without raising her voice. She can influence events by planting just enough poison and letting other people finish the job. Her weakness is that she is fundamentally destructive. She is so consumed by bitterness that her intelligence never becomes constructive power. It becomes corrosion. But in terms of understanding human vulnerability, she is elite. Tony is second, and that might surprise people who would either put him first automatically or lower him because of how many mistakes he makes. But Tony's intelligence is massive. He combines street instincts, strategic thinking, emotional reading, memory, improvisation, and leadership force in a way very few characters can. Tony can walk into a room and immediately understand the emotional weather. He knows who feels slighted, who wants something, who is scared, who is pretending, who is useful, and who might become a problem. He understands symbolism better than people think. He understands how fear and generosity work together. He knows when to charm, when to threaten, when to delay, and when to act. That is a rare mind. The reason he is not number one is because Tony's greatest weakness is also enormous. He does not govern himself well enough. He understands psychology, but often uses that understanding to justify himself instead of correcting himself. He sees patterns in others more clearly than in himself. His appetites, resentments, insecurities, and need for control repeatedly damage his own position. A truly number one intelligence in The Sopranos has to pair perception with discipline. Tony has the first in abundance, but not the second. That leaves Carmine Sr. at number one, because no one in the series better represents the highest form of intelligence in that world: calm, disciplined, ego-managed intelligence. Carmine is not loud, he is not theatrical. He does not need people to constantly feel his power because he already knows where it rests. That is the key. Carmine understands structure better than almost anybody. He knows that the man who lasts is not the man who wins every argument. It is the man who understands which fights are worth having, which egos need soothing, which profits need protecting, and which insults are too expensive to take seriously. Carmine does not waste movement. He does not let emotion overtake leverage. He is not blinded by the need to prove that he is the smartest man in the room, and that very trait is what makes him the smartest man in the room. He can look passive when he is actually being decisive. He can look polite when he is actually setting hard boundaries. He understands that power is strongest when it does not need to shout. What makes Carmine the most intelligent character is that he sees the mob for what it really is. Not as a stage for wounded masculinity, not as a place to chase personal glory, not as a family in the sentimental sense. He sees it as a structure of money, ego, risk, and controlled violence. And because he sees it clearly, he avoids many of the traps that ruin other men. He does not confuse momentary outrage with long-term interest. He does not let himself get dragged too far into petty emotional storms. He is not perfect, but he is the closest thing the show has to a man whose mind is usually serving reality instead of fantasy. That is really what this whole ranking comes down to. Intelligence in The Sopranos is not about who can sound the deepest or who can come up with the cleverest insult. It is about reality. Who sees it clearly, who accepts it, and who can still function inside it without being devoured by pride, panic, addiction, nostalgia, or self-deception. The dumbest characters are not always the ones with the fewest brains. They are the ones most trapped in fantasy. Jackie thinks he has inherited greatness. Matt and Sean think one reckless act can purchase status. Brendan thinks nerve is enough. Christopher thinks talent can outrun character. Paulie thinks survival alone proves wisdom. Junior thinks dignity can be forced. Johnny thinks emotion can serve power without damaging it. Ralphie thinks cleverness excuses chaos. Tony thinks understanding himself is the same as changing himself. Carmine is the one who comes closest to never making that mistake. He knows what world he is in, and more importantly, he acts like he knows it. And in a show filled with men who constantly confuse force with intelligence, that is what separates the truly smart from everyone else.